Okay, welcome to the third and last activity of the second Fusion tutorial. In this one, we'll just make it short. We'll introduce you to a few sketching concepts, mostly 2D and 3D sketches. That's a cool new one. And we'll be using those to make a paperclip. What we're going to do is we're going to first create the shape of our paperclip. And what we'll do is we'll create a new sketch. So we'll select this one here, the bottom plane. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a path for our paperclip, sort of the shape. Now, if you know what a paperclip looks like, it's essentially a straight line, then a U-turn, another straight line, a U-turn, another straight line, a U-turn, and the last straight line. So we'll just make that very simply by using a line tool. And we'll just start anywhere. In this case, I'll just make things simple and start from the origin point. We'll just bring this up to about, it doesn't have to be perfect, but let's just do a 1 centimeter paperclip length, so 10 millimeters. We'll zoom in so we can see better. And now we're just going to make a paperclip based on this grid here, as you can see, right? So I'm going to use that grid to help guide me along the path. In this case, what I'll do is I will just create another line here. And actually what I could do, instead of creating a line, is I want it to be a curve, right? So I could always select a circle instead. Maybe make it here somewhere. I can drag it out, and now I have a curve, right? And if I select my line here, I can then continue that line down, and I'll have my paperclip. If I want to get rid of this edge at the bottom, I can always press the shortcut T, which is trim. Alternatively, you can use it from this icon here. And as long as these lines are connected, it's actually able to cut out just that other half of the arc. And that's one way we can create an arc like this, right? But there's a much better way of doing this. I'm going to Control Z, and I'm back to my original one here. What I can do is I can go to Create, select Arc, and select a 3-point arc. Now with the 3-point arc, what I can do is I can select the first point here, which is to my line. I'll just drag it out somewhere around, let's just do 10 as well. Okay, I'm going to left click, and now if I drag it out again, you can see I can select how far out my arc should be. And in this case, if I drag out to somewhere there, you can see it snaps, and there's that little tangent icon. That just means that it's a straight line followed by a perfectly arced U-turn curve. So I'll just click that, and you can see I've got a straight line, an arc, and now if I go back to my line, I can click on this, draw it back down, and you can see I have also a straight tangent line. So I'll just draw around here. Again, doesn't need to be perfect. I'll hit escape, and now we have our straight line, a U-turn, and another straight line. Now, another thing I want to show you is the different types of arcs we can use. So in this case, we want there to be a straight line here, but I want it to make sure I'm in line basically with this two lines here. So I've explained that horribly, but I'll show you what I mean. So what I can use is the offset tool. I'll select just this line here. I can drag this in, and I want to give this, let's just say, a 2 millimeter offset. We'll hit OK. And now with this, what I can actually do is I can connect an arc to this line and this line, right? So you can see sort of see the shape that I'm going for, right? So if I go to create arc, I'm not going to use a 3-point arc this time. I'm actually going to use a tangent arc, right? And what this does is it lets me select 2 lines, and it'll automatically create a tangent arc to those lines. So you can see how that's moving out right now. You can see I can keep going. It is always going to be tangent to this line here. And if I now select the next one, you can see it has created a arc that will be tangent to this entire shape, like this line specifically, but it's now created this shape for us. So this is just a very simple paperclip shape. This might work. You can always adjust the sort of angle. So let's just say I want this to be a little bit bigger. I can do 3. You can see that I've created a bit more of a symmetrical shape, right? And we'll leave it like this for now. It's fine. We'll finish sketch. And we have our sketch of our paperclip, but no 3D body. So what can we do? Do we just offset this, revolve, maybe extrude? There's a much simpler way. What we're going to do is create a circle on this edge here. Now, the good thing about drawing my line on the origin, right, remember here, is that I can now select this plane, hit create sketch. I can select a circle tool. And I'll just make this about 1 millimeter, right? It doesn't have to be big. You can make it any size you want. I'll just hit 1. And I'll finish the sketch, right? I've got my circle. And now if I hide my origin, you can see I've got a circle that's somewhat connected to this line here. And we want this to be connected because if I go into a new tool called Sweep, which is under Create, Sweep here, if we select the profile, the circle, and next we select the path, this line here, you can see it's swept this circle. It's essentially extruded this circle along the path that we've drawn, right? And this allows us to create like very complex piping or different shapes based on the path that we want. We leave the rest as defaults, it's fine, we hit OK. And just like that, you have a paperclip. Now that's obviously with the sketch, you can draw different sketch shapes. You can draw a heart. It's up to you, right? In this case, I want to show you something very important. The reason why that worked is because our sketches, right? Our two sketches here. In fact, let me just go back. Our two sketches here are connected. Now, what does that mean, right? It's obviously not connected here. There's no line that physically connects them. Yet Fusion still understands we want to do it this way. Well, what happens if we do this, right? So we're going to go back to our first sketch, right, in the timeline, the first one. And I'm just going to shorten this a little bit, okay? I'll just draw a line, shorten this, delete this. Oh yeah, because I shortened it, remember we use an offset, so this is going to be affected as well. I'm just going to make this easy on me and just do that, okay? Doesn't matter. So now we have our path and our circle, but it's not connected, right? So now if I go back and I do my sweep command, I'm just dragging the history marker. Watch what happens. See that? It's lost that path because essentially it's not properly connected. If I double click on it, you can see I can select the path, but it's getting very confused as to how to follow it, right? So it's very important that you connect paths correctly. In fact, it's better if we Control Z all the way. It's not ideal, but it's still better, actually, if you overextend the path, right? And I've just drawn an extra line here. Finish sketch. And if I go back to my sweep tool, you can see it's back to normal. And if I double click on my sweep tool, I can actually adjust it, right? And make sure that it's going down the path, essentially. Oops, I just noticed. So my path only selected the one. For this, I'll select this. And now you can see it's going to follow my entire path. I can always adjust it. If I want to shorten it, I can shorten it down that way, whatever way, if you want. It's up to you, right? But it's better in this case to have a longer path than a shorter path. So make sure it's connected. So what happens then, let's just say, if we go back to this, right, I'll just select the entire thing. I'm going to, yeah, I can't do that in Fusion, I forget. You know what, let's just make this simple. Let's just delete this, and instead of starting my line in the origin here, I'm just going to put it out here like so, okay? And in this case, I'm just going to draw a very simple arc. Something like this. Okay? Nothing fancy, it's just to prove a point. So, finish sketch. You can see here, oh no, this is definitely disconnected. We're going to have issues with the sweep tool again. But how do we create a plane here? Because if you look at the origin, our origin point is here, but it's not in line. This won't be in line either. At least it's not in the correct orientation. This is not in the correct orientation. It's not in line with this line either. So what can we do? This is where the construct planes comes in handy, right? So planes are essentially like pieces of paper that you position in 3D space, and these pieces of paper will hold your sketch that you can then use to extrude your 3D bodies from. So in this case, we need a piece of paper on this very tip of this line, right? So what we can do is we can select plane along path right here, right? And this does exactly what it sounds like. If we select the line, you can see now it's created a plane there, somewhere there where I clicked, but we don't want it to be in the middle. We want it to be at the very end. So we select the arrow and we drag it till it can't be dragged out anymore. We hit OK. Or alternatively, you can always select the distance here. Again, it's proportional, so the start would be 0. Now it's at 18% of the distance. Hit 0. Hit OK. And now our plane is right on the tip of this line. And so when we start to draw it, it will be connected to that line. So if I draw a circle now, okay, we'll make this 1. Finish the sketch. And if I bring up my sweep command, select the circle, select the path, you can see now it's connected, everything is good. So it might be a good idea not to rely too much on the origin planes try to add your own planes. There are a few different types you can use. You can use offset planes, you can use tangent planes, mid planes. We'll look into those more in future tutorials again. But planes are another very critical aspect of sketches, okay? So 2D sketches are cool and all, but have you ever heard of 3D sketches? Now that's the really cool stuff, right? So we'll get rid of all of this. In fact, I'll just delete all these history features. Oops, wrong one. So we're back to square one, right? We'll just hit home. Now, we want to do 3D sketches instead. What we can do is, again, like normal, create a new sketch. We'll select the bottom plane. But if you notice, all the way down here is 3D sketch. If we check this, we enable the 3D sketch functions. And so if we start to draw shapes, okay? So let's just create a new paperclip. Again, I'm going to start from the origin because it's just easier. I'll just drag it out to, I don't know, around here. Doesn't really matter, okay? And now what I'll do is I'll hit escape. And you can see that my line is following this path, right? But I don't want it to follow this path. I want it to actually go up instead. And so let's just say I delete this line first. And I'm just going to draw from here a new line. And again, you can't be selected from the top view. What you need to do is actually rotate the camera. And here, it might be a bit hard because of the origin, so I'll hide it first. You can see there are actually little planes in our sketch tools now. What does that mean? It means if we select this plane, it's going to select this plane to draw on. But if I select this plane here, now our rotation has changed. So if I draw a line this way, and I'm just going to give it like make it a 45-degree angle, okay? And we'll just do 20, okay? If we left click, okay, so we're going to left click, you see that plane appears again. Now let's just say I want to move out in the opposite direction. I want to move along this red axis here, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the bottom plane. Now it's aligned to the red axis. If I draw out my shape, let's just go 10 millimeters this way. And again, I want to go back down in this direction. I'll select that plane again, the side plane. Go back down, and I'll just make this an even 20 as well. Left click. You can see now our sketch is actually in 3 dimensions. It looks a bit like a wedge, right? That's cool. Now let's just say we want this to be a rectangle. That's fine. We'll hit enter or escape, I think. You can see now this is our sketch, right? It's moving up. It's at an angle like so. If you look from the right, it's going up at an angle. If we look from the side, it's going up at an angle, right? The cool thing is we can then go into say create, we'll make an arc. And let's just do a 3-point arc. Doesn't really, actually, yeah. So we select this point. We'll select that point. And now if we move out, you can see how that's created that little weird shape, right? Like this. So you can create different angles based on the plane that we select, essentially. If I want it to go up instead, so let's just Control Z. We'll select the arc again. 3-point arc. Just click this point. Now instead of the bottom one, we'll select the top face instead. We'll select this. And we'll move it up. I don't know, something like this will do. You can see how that shape has changed now. So let's just hit enter. Now instead of being flat, right, it's pointing upwards. So this is pretty cool. So we can always do some other different cool designs. We'll again create another arc, right? We'll start from here. And let's just say we want it to go down, or maybe this, actually we want to stick it to this plane, right? We want to have a flat plane, it goes up and then it goes up again. We can now select maybe, let's just say this point somewhere in the middle. We'll drag it out, and then we can always click another point, drag it out, and just like that, oops. See, we have a new shape. If we finish sketch, you can see we have a 3D sketch, right? If you want to get rid of this, we can delete that. And just like that, it's cool. And the cool thing about this is that with a 3D sketch, what we can then do is go into our construct, plane along path. We'll select the plane. We'll just hit OK. Anywhere it's here is fine. We'll select on the plane. We'll draw another circle again. We'll make this 2 just to make it a bit easier to see. Finish sketch. And now if we go back into our sweep, and I'm using the shortcut here, sweep. select the profile, select our 3D path. You can see now we have a 3D paperclip, right? I mean, at least close enough to a paperclip. So this could be anything. This could be like a bottle holder. This could be, you know, a phone stand, anything you want, right? It's pretty cool. So this is how you would utilize 3D sketches. Just remember, if you want to ever go back to 2D sketching, when you click on the sketch here, make sure to uncheck this before you continue. Otherwise, you might get lost and end up making three-dimensional sketches. So that's the case, that's fine. You can always save this, and that's basically it, right? Make your own designs, have fun with it. With 3D sketching, one of the really cool things that we actually did for our GGC, at least my GGC group, and I'll show you here. Yep, so for our GGC project, what I did was I modeled a roller coaster track, and all this extrusions here, this is just a sweep command that is following a 3D sketch. So you can actually plot out your path, sweep it, and you have a nice, cool structure that you can then print, 3D print and actually use, Of course, this was very painful to make, and I will never forget it for the rest of my life. But